Hi and welcome to an episode where we'll talk about street photography genres. And street photography genres are like a map of content and styles you use for street photography. And what is that? What are genres in street photography? Well, there are different genres and we'll take them one by one or two by one today, with street photography being candid street photography and fine art photography. Then there are other genres which includes different styles, like if it is kind of a documentary style where you follow people, it can be more urban styles and different things, but we will take them one by one. But first today, let's talk about fine art street photography and candid street photography. And what is that? Before we really get started, please sign up for the newsletter. And in the newsletter, I put out every workshop I do. I put up when I have a new blog post about photography, which you can view on my website. And if there are other subjects I find may be interesting for my followers on my website. So please visit the website and of course subscribe to this channel to get a notification each time a new video is up. So these are little shorter videos about street photography and different genres and styles in street photography. So we will go through this today and during the next videos. Thank you for being in my room here with me and my camera. What is candid street photography? It is a style where you go into the streets, you search for moments happening in front of you, you have your camera ready, you capture it as it is. Maybe a little rough, maybe well composed, maybe a little on the edge, maybe a little underlit or overlit. It's more about the action than the actual, what shall we say, precise and very fine composed photo. It's more about what happens in life in the street. It can be everything from people falling over something, having an argument. All that kind of stuff is candid street photography, where fine art photography is a little bit more focused on having a very well composed image. Things can happen in there, but they are well composed. There might be a lot of post editing in those kinds of pictures, almost making them too artificial. Sometimes I find maybe darkening out areas too much so they are not looking real anymore. But that's a matter of taste, just my taste and the way I do it. I prefer to have that a little bit photojournalist approach because I am a photojournalist. So I have that photojournalist approach that I want to include what actually happens in there. I like to alter the image afterwards, playing with light and shadow, but I will never remove anything from my photo except maybe cropping it a little bit to make a better composition, or move the objects a little inside there if things are happening too fast, but else I try to do it as close to the original as possible. But still it can be fine art photography where things happen in there. So a mixture between the candid street style where you are very focused on what's happening, and then the fine art style where you have very well composed images. And then there are all those gray zones in between. So that's what this episode is about. I'll show you a few pictures from my work recently in Berlin and Copenhagen. And some of these are mostly focused on having the subjects placed in a certain order so there's balance in the pictures. It can be black and white, it can be color photos. That's depending on your style and what you like. I prefer either that Kodachrome look from the Leica M9 here. The CCD sensor here produce excellent images. And by the way, if you like that look for color photography and you don't have the CCD sensor like in the Leica M9 here, so if you have any other camera brand, I will add a free link below to a preset for Lightroom where you can make those colors look alike like Kodachrome. Else, I like black and white very much because that really fits in this genre, but it all depends on the scenery I approach. If there are very good colors there, I go for the color photos. If the black and white version is what works best, then it is what I'm doing. And I have in my M9 here set up so I shoot a raw image which contains all the information. Then I can convert it into black and white. I can use the colors as I like, depends on the situation and what image I'm going for. But I also shoot a side JPEG image here in black and white because the camera is actually excellent on producing these images, and I can on my screen here, if I look at it, it gives me an impression of what I've just shot in black and white. I can't show both, but that doesn't matter. I just have that sidecar in JPEG black and white, so I have that approach too. Else I have in my head most of the time an idea of what I have done, but it happens when you come home. It looks different on the screen on the computer, and sometimes I change from black and white to color, which means I skip the JPEG and use the raw version and post-edit that a bit, and then I go with that one. And sometimes it's the opposite, and then the black and white wins. And in those cases, and there are some, both works, I keep them both. Candid photography leans towards fine art photography in some cases. I think I'm somewhere in the middle, in between those two genres with my photos. And I like both the very artistic setup lines and forms and color repetition and black and white shades and lights. And then I wait for things to happen in that frame. And that is what is describing fine art street photography. And then there are those candid moments that also happens in between, where you just have to be quick with your camera, snap what you got, and go with the framing you have. And that is also very interesting to look at. So both genres are really good, and they in between overlap, and sometimes it's very clear what is candid and what is fine art street photography. Or if you prefer it, skip the fine art and just say street photography, because what happens in the street is what we capture with our camera, and that's the point of it. When I walk out the door with my camera over my shoulder, I do not have a specific goal with it unless I know a location where I know there are good colors, or I know, because of the day of the light, I know an area where light and shadow will play very well, and I just have to wait for things to happen in there. But else I actually walk around the street and simply wait and see what happens. Also, not to reproduce myself all the time and just make the same images in the same spots. It would be easy, but also at the end a bit boring. So the challenge is to find new inspiration, new areas, getting a little bit out of the comfort zone, because that is the fun about photography, trying something you normally do not do. It can be in well-known areas where you came back at other times of the day, repeat that area in different light situations, different times of the year, and you will see things are actually changing. Or else move to another town, a new area, and see what that offers for your photography, no matter if it is for the fine art moments or it is for the candid moments. And when I say fine art moments, is because I always include with very few exceptions, people in my pictures, both for the form of the picture, to add that sense of scale. When you place something that you know the scale of, and of course we have different heights, but if you place something in a well-known scale inside, you will also have a perspective that is clear when you make your composition of your picture. Then you will know how big the buildings are or whatever is in the background. Of course, it can cheat depending on the angle and view of the camera and the lens you use. I use the 50mm lens most of the time, which is pretty close to natural view, and that gives me that natural feeling of a scenery. Fine art photography is a really interesting genre, and we call it that now because that's a label we can put on it, easier to understand. And here it's about all the components in the picture are well framed, well thought out, and then you can wait for something to happen in there, and it could just be a dog passing by, It can be people going through the street or inside a building, being part of that composition. That will make that picture fine art photography. And if it is more about just capturing moments as they pass, then we are in the Candid street photography genre, and then we have the gray zones in between. And next time we will talk about another genre in street photography, so wait and watch that for later. When we're talking street photography, also check the website for workshops. If you're interested, you can join in there and sign up before the spots are gone. We have Paris later in September, I have Rome in May, and I have Copenhagen in July. So I hope you will be interested and join in and learn more about that on the website.